Welcome to this webcast from the Australian Marketing Institute. My name's Andrew Thornton and I'm the Chair of the AMI Board of Directors. In my day job, I'm also co-founder and director of the Customer Edge. In a nutshell, what we do is we help our customers develop integrated customer-centric strategies that work. And we work with them through the implementation process to ensure effective outcomes for their business and for their customers. In today's webcast, I have the pleasure to chat with Michael Laffs, the winner of the Future Leader of the Year Award, which was presented at the AMI Awards for Excellence about 2 weeks ago in Melbourne. Inaugurated in 2013, the Future Leader of the Year Award promotes the critical role future marketers play as key contributors to value creation for organisations, as well as recognising excellence in leadership qualities and marketing skills. Entrants must be 30 years of age or under. Geez, I just missed out on that. As at the 30th of June 2017, with tertiary marketing qualifications, employed in a full-time marketing role, or a company owner with 2 to 6 years work experience. So, Michael, firstly, congratulations on being named the award winner on that. A great feather in your cap. Let's talk a little bit about your background here. Michael is co-founder and director of Strategy Yoga Digital. And in his submission to the AMI, Michael wrote, and I will quote this, "As we move towards the year 2020, the number of consumer touchpoints prior to purchase will grow in rapid parallel to our capability to access meaningful data from each of those points. In turn, this will open the door to the greatest opportunities ever afforded the marketing and advertising industry. In order to capitalise on these opportunities, marketers will need to have strong skills in data analysis so they can feed accurate, actionable insights into their strategies. This will ensure they're built on foundation of customer feedback and needs rather than personal opinion." And I 100% agree with you on that point. As the amount of qualitative, quantitative consumer behaviour data we've already have access to grows exponentially leading up to 2020, the marketers and companies that are most successful in harnessing the power of data will be the ones sitting at the top of the food chain. Furthermore, to become a highly effective marketer, it will be a requirement to become T-shaped. And I know you're going to elaborate on this a bit further.
I will.
But T-shaped, it means having a professional proficiency across a broad array of channels with a true expertise in a particular discipline. By becoming T-shaped, marketers will understand how multiple channels work together, both in isolation and when integrated, allowing them to create effective, personalised, omni-channel strategies. With that backdrop, let me officially welcome Michael to this webcast. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much.
To kick off, from the story we just gone through in terms of your submission, we definitely can see that your expertise in data and insights is there in spades. Tell us a bit more about why you believe data has become so important for today's marketers.
I think that a lot of people look at data and they see numbers. When they see qualitative data, they might see a heat map, they see clicks. If they look at session recordings, they'll see a mouse moving. But I think what they tend to forget is that behind all of that data is a person. So when we look at data and when we try and understand why it's so important, the reason I believe it's so important is the data is, in its most pure form, the voice of who your customer is, right? You are listening to what they have to say. You're listening to their pain points. You're trying to understand how they're getting from point A to point B and how you can improve that process for them. Whether that data is used in digital, traditional, above the line, below the line, through the line marketing is kind of irrelevant. You can use it for online and offline customer experience, as we were discussing before. So for me, I think that one of the reasons that it's become so important for today's marketers is that if you don't understand the data and you don't have any data, then you actually have very little understanding of who your customer is. Yeah,
and I think that's a very good point. And one of the things that I guess to sort of expand on that is about the sort of data and insights based on today, but also how do you use that data to look at what may occur in the future, and how do you then apply that back? Some thoughts on that?
I think that as we kind of move more into automation and AI, data or being able to plug data into those systems will become more critical. And I think that's where it's moving towards in the future, where it'll probably be less of a manual process and there will be better tools, more advanced tools that give customers, or rather give agencies and companies, they have to lead more from a strategy perspective. So I think that's probably where it's heading towards moving forward.
Now, in your submission, you referred to the term T-shaped marketing professionals. Tell us more about this term and how marketers can ensure they are T-shaped.
Yeah, so T-shaped is actually a term that I first read about in a blog by Rand Fishkin, who's one of the founders of Moz, which is a large digital blog based in the US. And they also obviously do digital marketing tools, that sort of thing. But it really fascinated me. He was speaking about it specifically in a digital sense. So what he means is that if you are in the digital marketing space, it's important for you to understand how all the services work. So SEO, paid media, email marketing, social, UX research, UX design. So you have to have a broad understanding of how all of those services work. But then just as importantly, you have to have a specialty in one of those disciplines. So as an example, I might be an expert in content production, but at the same time, I still know what SEO is and how it works. I still understand UX research and UX design, because if you're going to be able to implement a strategy, you as a marketer and as your entire team, you need to be able to understand how your marketing mix is going to work together. I know that a lot of companies have a marketing department and they have a digital department, which I think will change in the future, but that's another conversation. But really, when you're building those strategies, people need to understand how it's going to impact across the entire marketing spectrum and make sure that it's a coherent and unified marketing strategy so that, I guess, the customer is spoken to in one tone of voice throughout the entire process and is naturally pushed through a conversion funnel. So in terms of the T-shaped marketer, if you take that into the offline space, it might be an agency that specializes in PR or in making video for for TV ads. But they still need to have an understanding of how digital works. And they still need to have an understanding how, I guess, the other disciplines within marketing work and how they would all be able to connect the dots for their client to build a really effective marketing strategy.
You alluded to this move towards greater integration and need for it. I am surprised that many organisations still have marketing functions structured into silos. Do you think that the way we're moving will drive organisational change to get more integration?
I really hope so. If I look at the companies that I think have the strongest cohesion internally between their teams, it's where they're not separated. It's where they just have a marketing department, because digital is a function of marketing. Okay. And I think as digital grows, and it is continuing to grow, you don't want your team separated. Whatever the way it's currently set up, whatever your, I guess, above the line marketing team is doing, your digital team should be a part of that, because the channels are going to have to interplay in order to make the campaign a success. So I really hope that, I guess, as we move into the next era of marketing and all the new tools come out and we do go through digital transformation periods, I really hope that a lot of companies do invest in just integrating their teams and combining them and just having a marketing team, and where they strategize and make decisions together rather than having a marketing function and a digital function, because they're one and the same.
Yeah, I agree. We actually work with one client who's made that transformation, where they now have all of their channels to market, marketing, customer service, all integrated into one department.
Yeah, that's excellent.
And it's amazing how you get those synergies and efficiencies, but more importantly, you get the great outcome for the customer as a result of that integration. So I'd really support what you're saying there.
Yeah,
so
excellent.
Good. I know it's very early days still in your career, yet you're already a founder of a successful digital agency. Can you share with us your secret of success and tell us why you decided to pursue your own business and about the challenges that have occurred on this journey that you've been on?
There's loads of challenges in trying to run your own business and starting your own business. I think one of the reasons that we did start our own business is I wanted to be able to take ownership of the process. And I just found that there was, I think, a gap in the market when we started our agency for people who wanted to offer a top-tier service at kind of mid-tier pricing, essentially, right? Yeah. That mid-tier client was forced to either work with mostly smaller agencies or top-tier agencies where it might have been costing them a significant amount of money. And I think we just wanted to take an ownership of that space. So that was, I guess, one of the reasons we got into it. We also felt that there was some agencies were really effective at using data to drive their decision-making, and other agencies were not so much. And we really wanted to play in that space, in the UX research, conversion optimization space, and then leverage those insights to channel strategy across the entire digital spectrum, and then also work with, I guess, more traditional agencies in bringing those campaigns to life. In terms of challenges that we're facing, I think same as a lot of businesses, finding and retaining really good staff. We're very lucky to have an incredible team, but we're very protective of that team and of the culture that we have. I would say growth is, often a challenge for agencies as well, particularly when you are very new and you don't have the reputation of, some of the larger agencies. You have to convince clients why they should work with you rather than paying maybe a little bit more, but working with a more established agency. So in the early days, that was more difficult. But now that I guess we are working with some rather large brands, that is less complicated than it was. But those are, I think, from an agency perspective, those are the two things that you're often looking at. But then also the challenge that we're facing now, and that a lot of agencies are going to have to go through now, is what's next in the digital world, or just in the marketing world in general, right? How do we prepare ourselves for not just 2020, but 2025, 2030? What are the new tools and systems and technologies that are going to be out there that we can leverage when we are trying to build digital strategies? And I think that's probably our next challenge now.
And you talked about in the early days, hard to get that cut through. What sort of strategies did you deploy to try and get that cut through? And then the second part of my question is, as you move forward, how do you continue to make sure that you can differentiate your business and what you offer to the market from the other players out there? Yeah,
I think in terms of how we get cut, or how we did get cut through, is we knew that in order to play with the larger agencies, we had to look, act, and sound like them, even if we weren't. So everything from the way we spoke, to the quality of our proposal templates, to our website, to I think just the way we engaged them from like a communication perspective. It just made it seem like we were far more advanced than we were when we were just still 3 founders. People thought that we had a bigger team than we did. They thought that we'd been around for more years than we had. But also we put ourselves in positions when we went to networking opportunities and marketing conferences. We put ourselves in front of people that we would have in no way been able to get in front of by just trying to connect with them on LinkedIn or running a paid search campaign. So we essentially went out to market and tried to be where our target market was going to be. And the more hands we shook, the more opportunities naturally presented themselves. And then in terms of the second part of your question, like kind of moving forward, I think the cut through for us is again in the data side. We consider ourselves data specialists. And because we consider ourselves data specialists, there's already a slight point of differentiation there. A lot of agencies are moving towards being more data driven, which I think is excellent for the industry as a whole. It's better for agencies, it's better for customers and clients. But I think just our desire to constantly be at the forefront of what's happening in the digital industry and being, I guess, first mover on a lot of those technologies, I think that's where we plan on pushing ourselves.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And because it is hard to find that point of differentiation, but as you say, being experts around data and insights and using that to drive the campaign development, I think is a critical one. Talking about sort of younger marketers and starting their careers and which way do they go, what would you suggest to young marketers on how they should build and develop their skill sets? What do you think the main areas you'd suggest they concentrate on? I know it's a big question, that one.
It is. Yeah. I think one of the main areas that I recommend that marketers of the future focus on is definitely on the strategy side. I think strategy is half of all marketing, right? You've got strategy and execution. But if you can be strong in strategy, hopefully the business as a whole can help you on the execution side. But you need to have an understanding of, again, how all of the different channels work, your role within each of those channels, how to build something cohesive. If you're not able to deliver that, I think that you will struggle to grow in the marketing profession. If you look at, I guess, some of the more senior members, even of the AMI, they're all excellent strategists. And I think that that's a real point of differentiation. The other recommendation that I make, and I mentioned this at the AMI Awards last week or the week before, was that getting your hands dirty is such a critical part of, I think, marketing. Making sure that you actually try a little bit of everything and figure out where your strengths are, but make sure that you are the one actually doing the work, that you understand how all the services work. I think that's an absolutely invaluable skill, because it teaches you not just about the services, but it teaches you about strategy and stakeholder management. It teaches you about budgeting. It teaches you basically how to grow your portfolio in a really effective way. And that makes you invaluable to any business that you work in.
Yeah, I agree. Look, it's probably inherent in what you were saying. One other aspect I think is very important is that you have some certain degree of around, financial acumen, understand the finances rather than it just being around the sort of creative, but understanding what the financial impacts are of what you're doing.
Absolutely, and that comes with strategy, like experience and strategy, understanding, well, we have this much budget in total. Where do we want to be spending that money that's going to be most cost effective for the client, rather than just focusing on, well, let's just put it all into one channel. I think you need to have a really good understanding, again, in that T-shaped format, is which channels are going to drive the best ROI for the client. And that makes you absolutely indisposable to the client, and that's how you also improve agency retention. That's absolutely valuable.
As a future leader, well, I think you're probably there already. As a future leader, how do you see the future of the marketing industry? So if I handed you a crystal ball, what do you think the marketing environment will be like in, say, let's say 10 years or 20 years' time? How much will it have changed? What specialties are likely to disappear that are around today? What new things might emerge? How would you see it?
Yeah, I don't think that you even need to be looking, 10, 20 years away. I think we're maybe 3, 4, 5 years away from seeing major shifts in marketing. There was a report that was I was actually having a chat with Martin Curtis, who's the head of performance agencies at Google. Wickedly intelligent guy, if you ever want to catch up with someone for coffee. Sorry, Martin. But one of the things that he pointed out is that you've got companies like Accenture, which is now the largest digital marketing agency in the world. You've got IBM, who's got a digital wing. You've got PwC, which has a digital wing. And you've got Deloitte Digital. So between the four of them, it's the first time ever that 4 digital consultancies are now in the top 10 digital agencies in the world, right? They combined, I think their revenue is something like $13.5 billion just from the digital consultancy arm. That tells me already that strategy is where things are heading to, right? If you start looking at artificial intelligence and automation, that is actually going to make a lot of jobs redundant from like a production perspective, because it will handle a lot of that work on behalf of marketers like myself, where we will become more valuable, and where the focus will shift from a marketing perspective will be around the strategy side, right? So we'll have all of these really fancy tools that will be able to spit out a lot of data, but what to do with that data and where to allocate funds and put your focus, that is going to be, I think, the future of marketing. So from a future-proofing perspective, I think, again, what do I recommend for the marketers of tomorrow? I recommend understanding all of the different channels. I also recommend being an expert in strategy. And that way, as we move towards an era where we'll have more insights than ever before, but we're going to be relying on other tools to help us handle that, we will just need to be able to be really good at disseminating that information and turning it into a strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. Fabulous insight. Thank you for your time today.
Pleasure.
It's time to wrap it up, and congratulations again on
Thank you very much.
being named the future leader. We've really, I guess the thing that you've covered off here is about how important the insights are and how you use insights to actually drive where campaigns are going or the strategies are going. And I think your point about really focusing on understanding how strategy comes together, and integrated strategy, is good advice for people watching this webcast today. So thanks for your time.
Pleasure.
Time to wrap up. The 2018 AMI Awards for Excellence will open up for entries in February in 2018. I was going to say this year. It feels like we're into this year already.
Yeah, I can't believe it's the end of this year.
But I encourage you, if you're wanting to make a submission, I'd start thinking about how you, what projects you might put in, and the process of writing your submissions, and what things you would like to nominate. If you want to find out more about the AMI, or in fact the awards, or becoming a professional membership member, please contact us on 02 8256 1650, or you can email us at membership@ami.org.au. Thanks for tuning into this webcast.